love to welcome, starting from this side, Madhulika, uh, a fantastic writer, speaker. I don't know if I should say the word food critic, because critic is not, a food critic is not a very good word these days. We get upset, especially the chefs get upset. All of us in the food business get upset. Anyway, so fantastic person to talk about food. So Madhulika, thank you so much for coming. I know Bombay with the traffic and all of that, you coming all the way from Kolaba. Thank you. Then I have Vikram. I guess Vikram doesn't need much introduction. His family has been in the business for the longest time. He's doing phenomenal stuff, making us all proud in the hospitality industry. And as we progress, we'll hear more from Vikram. And then, of course, I have Aditi Kapoor. Aditi, thank you so much for coming. And your business model, if I may use the word e-business, is that a... Yeah, the e-business is the way for the future. We have all started believing it, endorsing it, using it. So, Aditi, thank you so much for coming. And as we move along, we'll talk more about your business. And of course, I'm expecting my old friend Ravi Wazir. We started Olive together many, many years back. And he used to be the first general manager of Olive. So I'm hoping Ravi would make it if Bombay traffic lets him get here sooner than later. So very interesting. I don't know if, I find this topic interesting. I don't know if everybody would endorse my view. The role of F&B in building hallmark of a hotel. Hallmark, it's a big word. When you use the word like hallmark, it's a very big word. Today morning, we were attending a session of drinks, at the drinks theater, and it was about Indian wines, and we had somebody representing ITC Hotel. And I believe that they have the power, or they've really earned it to say that we are the best in Indian food in the world. And yes, then you can use serious words like hallmark and stuff like that. So I would start, in a chronological order from this side and start with Madhulika and say, Madhulika, you as a critic, as a writer, as a person who's been studying the food development in India over the last 10, 12 odd years, do you genuinely believe that F&B has become the hallmark or will become the hallmark or is the hallmark of building hotels? So let's start with you.
The problem with journalists are they don't know how to handle mics. 10 years savvy, not more than that. But can you repeat the question again? Because I got tired when you said F&B and hallmark.
When we are saying hallmark, we are talking about, in my mind, the way I understand it or see it, we'll throw it open later on for discussion, but let's say the way I see it, it's the F&B outlets, or as we call it, could be restaurants, it could be fine dines, it could be banqueting facilities, it could be conferencing facilities, it could be anything else that leads to what we call F&B in the industry for the development of these bigger known hotels, properties, businesses, so to say.
This was fine. I'll generally give you a perspective which me as a diner can see. Food writer, food critic, these people don't exist. We only love food. As far as F&B being hallmark, today I think a good restaurant means a good hotel. Staying comes pretty much later. Dining is something we do out of everything. It's an emotional eating society. We do it. We go to restaurants to feel better, get over her heartbreak, celebrate something, or just feel good about ourselves. Or even if I can say that, feel as if we have reached a certain group. We are right there. That's why somebody today goes to Air. That's why somebody goes to Dome. Then people question that, okay, we have done Dome and Air, what's next? And that's why I think places like China has opened up a restaurant which is catering to that one emotion which F&B created by introducing a restaurant which has an 18 to 20 course meal. The waiting list is 6 months, and only 20 strangers can share a community table. And why people go there to eat Chinese food? is because the ambience and the confidence it creates among people. That way, yes, I think if you look at hospitality, F&B has really been the hallmark of development. If India tomorrow, by 2020, will have a 35% growth in organized sector, F&B guys have to be given credit for.
Beautiful, Madhulika. Fantastic insight. As it's altogether a new way of looking at the business, which is the story or the emotion. But I guess we are all driven by our emotions and our passion. So I'll ask Vikram to maybe just elaborate on this. Either if you feel this is exactly the reason, or if there are other reasons that you feel are equally important that makes F&B a hallmark, if at all you believe that.
I think when it comes to involving the local community, nothing can do it better than F&B. And hotels, many hotels already have fantastic locations surrounded by residential and good people around them. So a hotel would want to capitalize on that. Hotels haven't been giving in the past that much attention on F&B because they were doing well by default. Today has become the ball game of branding and of course segmentation and focusing well on doing what you do well. So we've had standalone restaurants really take a lot of business, standalone restaurants, standalone banquets, and that's why we've seen the rise of standalone restaurants even in places like malls, shopping complexes, which have really given a strong run for hotels are run for their money. So today branding and doing well what you do becomes really important, whether the location doesn't really matter. And that's where if hotels do it well, they have massive advantage. They already have good parking, already have good location, and already have that glamour factor, which she rightly mentioned, that people aspire, hotel mein jaake khayenge. So that pull, if hotels do well, then obviously hotels can use that to their advantage much more than, let's say, a mall or a standalone restaurant. Earlier it used to be that when you tell, kal kahan gaye the, hum log Leela mein gaye the khana khale, ya hum log Taj mein gaye the khana gaye. It didn't matter which restaurant you went to. It mattered that I went to a 5-star hotel and I spent a lot of money and see how well my husband is doing. And things like that. True. We celebrated in 5 stars, you rightly said. Of course, now people are becoming more brand conscious, and now the brand itself matters. So you wouldn't really say that let's go to X, you'd say let's go to eat Chinese, or let's go to, you specify, let's go to mainland China, whatever. So yeah, that difference is now coming in.
Aditi, coming to you, you're a pathbreaker in this industry where you have brought fine cuisine to our homes. What do you think? Do you believe, because this is almost against the philosophy of what your business stands upon, that we have to go to a 5-star hotel to eat good food, whereas you would come home and give it the same, probably at a cheaper price because you have a better deal with, I'm imagining, with all the people who are kind of patronizing you, your end users, and at the same time, people that you are endorsing in your site.
So I think Vikram and Madhulika got out a lot of good points, but dining out and eating at home are completely different experiences. You want that dining out experience as well. It's not only about good food. Eating out also becomes nowadays restaurants have become a destination in itself. So earlier it used to be that, we want to go to a nice hotel and eat, or location mattered. But now restaurants in itself are a destination. So when you look at malls, to draw a parallel, a good restaurant or a good brand of restaurant in a mall draws crowd to the mall. Not only would it help the mall, it would even help the other restaurants within the mall. So dining out is a different experience, but given our day-to-day life, our hectic schedules, all of us being working on day-to-day, it is very difficult to get out on a day-to-day basis. So that dining out experience comes once in a while. Maybe on an occasion, maybe on a weekend. But what about the weekdays? What about the days when you worked for 10 hours or 12 hours and you go home from work, and that day the traffic is terrible or it's pouring down and you don't want to get out and go to a hotel? That's when delivery helps. That's the time when you want good food at home. You may still want good food. You worked very hard that day and you want something nice to eat. What if your cook's not there and your wife's tired? What do you do then? So that's when delivery helps.
Fantastic perspective, Aditi. I think we've just opened up another horizon of this, I wouldn't say debate, but discussion, that it's not just a hallmark for a hotel, it could even be a hallmark for a mall. And I hope, the people the builders and the people who own the malls, the in-orbit guys are listening to this, because if that is how it is and how it is perceived in modern India, then it's not just a five-star hotel who would be able to attract more people or more guests with a hallmark restaurant or an F&B outlet. It would even be a mall who could do that. Let's say I will throw a parallel. Let's say it's never going to happen, but let's say you have a Bukhara in your mall. Would that make your mall more popular? Madhulika, what do you think?
A Bukhara in a mall. Would it happen? I hope nobody is here from ITC in the guest. Definitely, why not? It would help. See, what Aditi said about eating at home. If you look back, let's just step back and see how the F&B has helped finally lead to such a concept. Even when I'm using a deliverychef.in, I'm actually ordering for something I know about. If Chinese today is known in India, it's mainland China or any of the Chinese bistro you can name. If other foods are known about, if fine dining is known about, it's because of olive. If small pieces of a full platter of everything which is on your menu comes on your platter and you taste it, it is known by a restaurant which closed down, Bellissima. So I think when it comes to how food will shape, I think F&B has played a role in educating people, honing their eating skills ahead in a way that, things, a Bukhara in a mall will actually make the mall work. Even today, a lot of restaurants make mall work. It's not the other way around. Nobody goes out shopping. Jabong has killed shopping in malls. But yeah, eating out, you can't do it through Jabong. So I think it will be the other way around. It will define a mall. That's why probably a Punjab Grill is in Palladium. And that's how Palladium is seen. It's a hi-fi mall. And I think you were mentioning something coming up in Delhi called the Hub. That eventually it will be the outlets inside a mall which will be defining how good the mall does and how good the business comes in, not the other way around.
I'm happy you mentioned Hub. Just quickly to add up, if everybody here knows or has not been to the Hub yet, it's a thing that has come up in New Delhi, not in New Delhi, it's in Gurgaon. It's got 58 outlets. It is like the first of its kind restaurant mall or an F&B mall. It has no retail barring F&B. So there are 58 of national and international brands surrounded or inside the heart of the cyber city, which has about captive 4.5 lakh people working. So, the upwardly mobile middle class of Gurgaon and New Delhi goes there. It's doing phenomenal. So if you have not seen it, you must go and see it. Like how Palladium changed, South Bombay in many ways, or that part of Bombay. Similarly, this particular thing is really changing the geography and the socio-economic scenario in Gurgaon, or affecting it at least. Okay, so moving on to what we were discussing, I kind of picked up a few points from what our very learned and eminent panel is talking about. So we discussed or spoke about emotion, we discussed location, we discussed even the standalone restaurants and in the malls are doing similar kind of, or creating similar footprints, like we have restaurants in the hotels have done. Vikram spoke about the destination, that it's being a destination always matters. And of course, Aditi spoke about experience and the difference between dining in and dining out, which is a fantastic way to look at it, that at home also you want to eat good food. So not necessarily because you're at home, you want to eat average food from a bad Chinese takeaway. Okay, now my next thought on this, just a progressive thought, that Vikram, your family has owned and ran businesses for a long time. It's not in hotels. You have a few places where you are also in the hotels, also you've been on standalone formats. Right. So you've been on both formats. What, according to you, did you think made more sense? Or did you feel wherever you're in the Kamath hotel, did it make more sense? Or would it be on a standalone format if you're competing, let's say in a hub or in a mall, that would have been made more sense as an F&B entrepreneur?
I think when it comes to Vittal Kamath's original family restaurant, we are primarily highway focused. Today, though they're originally there were many karmas, of course, in the city. Today we are mainly highway focused, and when it comes to getting into malls, our present model is not attuned to malls. We pride ourselves on being able to serve hot, healthy, hygienic food on the highways. And that's where we are sticking with. So it's a conscious choice not to enter the malls. Whereas I know many people whose conscious choice is there to be only in malls. So it all depends, because we're not so much, I think that our menu, excuse me. Sorry. I think that our menu is not really a menu which excites people, especially when it comes to fine dining. So we've kept our menu very light, travel-based food. So it's a conscious choice. So I wouldn't say that one is better than the other. It depends on what kind of segment you are in, which kind of food you're serving, what's your APC. It would all matter.
Vikram, I would like you to hold on to that for a while. I'll come back because, today India is the mass India or the mid-market India where we all belong, and your model is absolutely tuned to that. So it's a very different and it's a discussion altogether. So we'll come back to that. And yes, and so yeah.
I said that it's a completely different, difficult model, because one must understand on the highway, the very advantage that people are stopping with us because there's nothing becomes a disadvantage, because there is no staff that stays in and around. There is no light on the highway. There is no water, access to any water on the highway. So basic things, even if you're making, everybody expects that there'll be a good washroom. Come, Ravi.
Ravi, come. Join us.
Hi, Ravi.
Good. Ravi, Madhulika, Aditi, Ravi.
So I think that each model has a particular nuance or a knack, and the same goes in a mall, because you have very tight space, you're paying common area maintenance. There are so many other things not in your control. I know many malls that don't allow gas, for example.
True.
So each one has the nuance.
I'd like to welcome Ravi. Ravi Wazir, we're friends for the longest time. Restaurateur, hotelier, has done many things. And I'm so happy, Ravi, that you made it, because we were thinking that it's Bombay traffic, preponing, postponing, all of that is a bit of a confusion, but thank you so much.
I thought it was 5:45.
Yes,
I don't know what happened.
It happened, sorry. Thank you so much for coming, Ravi. So we just started talking about, you made it in time actually. We were talking about the hallmark of an F&B business, or let's say, is F&B really a hallmark of or pride of hotels? So we just started with this discussion. We went for the first round talking about, and everybody genuinely agreed. So we can hear your viewpoint on if you really genuinely believe or think, in your illustrious career, that you've seen restaurants really turning around hotel, or the hotels taking pride in the restaurants that they own, or F&B is genuinely bringing in business, and it's not just the rooms or the location or how beautiful the rooms are. So go ahead, and we'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think F&B drives the hotel business or other such businesses. In fact, I'd like to give an example. You've been privy to that as well, Sabi. And that's not necessarily that the restaurant should be owned by the hotel. It could be how, it's an example that I saw very close to my place. I live in Bandra. And there used to be this locality, Union Park Khar, near the Pali Hill Tourist Hotel. Pali Hill Tourist Hotel was a very dead kind of place. In fact, I'd say with almost dubious transactions that used to happen there. Because I grew up in that part of the city. The only landmark which came along some years ago was a restaurant called Shatranj Nepoli. And there used to be an old Chinese restaurant inside this Pali Hills Tourist Hotel. And one fine day, A.D. Singh, the restaurateur, walked in and had an arrangement with the owner of the hotel and started out Olive Bar and Kitchen there. Now, there was one restaurant in that hotel which was doing reasonably well. That was out of the blue. Not a very high-end place, but it did attract a reasonably good patronage compared to what the hotel was attracting. But I think what A.D. Singh did in terms of his meticulousness in terms of the concept of Olive and the painstaking effort that he took in marketing it well. He drew in the right kind of crowd. And the kind of crowd that started coming into that hotel, I actually saw a transition even in the owner of the hotel as a human being. I mean, rather as a professional, I should say, not as a human being. He was a wonderful human being and very open. So hats off to the landlord of the hotel as well. Eventually he bought over out of the blue and slowly managed to do things which hadn't been done before in that hotel. It was, the hotel itself was like an old Hindi movie kind of hotel, you know, with very ostentatious furniture, with, you know, you can just imagine that villain Ajit sitting there and, you know, commanding something in those rooms, those kind of dilapidated rooms. But I think when Arjun Bajaj, the owner of the hotel, took over out of the blue and slowly evolved it, and he did that beautifully. Not many people can do that, so hats off to him. And I think also hats off to A.D. Singh, because the kind of patrons that he brought in uplifted the entire value of the property. Eventually, the owner of the hotel was able to start even a nail bar, which also attracted the kind of patrons like Olive did. And subsequently, he rebranded his entire hotel. And today it is Le Sutra, the art hotel, a boutique hotel. So he would never have been able to do that had it not been for these little steps of the kind of patrons that came into that place. I'd say pretty much that's because of the nature of people that the restaurants were able to attract.
Thank you, Ravi, for sharing that story. Very nostalgic. And you're right, that word dubious, you know. So it was also not dubious, it was also dingy, you know. So it is D all the way. So yes, if you are a small hotel owner, if you are running boutique hotels or boutique properties, or you're thinking of doing one, I think it's a beautiful example that you put together. If I may, you know, add a little more to what Ravi you said, that it probably for sure brought in changes into the hotel, but I have also seen the surrounding changing, because the people that came in different kind of people, so it brought different kind of energy. Even the bloody pawn shop at the corner started keeping different brands of cigarettes than what it did earlier, you know. So everything around that area at Pali Hill upgraded itself to receive this new India, which came in its fancy cars, and of course all the big glitterati of Bombay pastry and everybody, and Bollywood. So, and so did we, you know. And especially yourself and your team.
Absolutely.
So yes, it's so amazing that this particular story, and so beautifully told by Ravi, that as we were discussing existing restaurants and hotels as a hallmark, and here it's like risen from the dead, the phoenix, you know, the hotel gone down, dead, nothing happening, and suddenly goes on to become a boutique property on Pali Hill thanks to a few F&B outlets. So there's another way of looking at it. It's not just that your hotel should have an F&B outlet, that's your hallmark. You could also go the other way. So you start from this side of the tunnel or that side of the tunnel, you create an F&B outlet which is of a certain level and dignity, that then brings up the caliber of the hotel. Actually, when we started discussing, we were discussing more the big 5 stars of this country, because, you know, India lived in its 5 stars for the longest time before we have come out and we started seeing the rest of the country through Vikram's eyes. So we were looking at the Tajes or the Oberois or the Sheratons of this country, Mauryas as in the Grand Marathas and the Mauryas, where you had the fantastic homegrown in-house brands, which we took pride for the longest time. We took our friends when they, you know, visited us from outside of this country, and we took great pride. Today, we are doing the same, but taking them to, let's say, an Olive, and feeling equally proud that, oh wow, this is the new India, or this is the modern India. You know, as you're not here, I'll just fill you up quickly with what we discussed. We also discuss about how Aditi's e-business has brought fine food into Indian homes, and Vikram also shared his thoughts on how location is important. Madhulika kind of elaborated on the experience part that, so I'll tell you exactly what she said, that, you know, it is the emotion that drives you to a particular F&B outlet. So every F&B outlet in a hotel which captures on your imagination, be it the highest point of air where you're sitting and looking into the open sky, or sitting on the seaside somewhere. So the emotion or the human emotion that the F&B that connects to in a particular hotel, or whichever hotel has been able to do that, has able to capitalize on it. So it is food, of course, because it is F&B. It is also emotion. It is also location. It is also how the way it has been brought to you. So I would go back to Aditi on talking about this. Aditi, how do you feel? Because this is something which is, I'm sure before you went into what you did, you also must have gone through the same progression that what we're talking about, that going to a particular hotel because of a famed restaurant. Is there any particular restaurant, and feel free to take names because we're here to just have a discussion. So you can think of any particular outlet that you felt that if I could get this particular food at home, was my inspiration of starting what I did. Was there something like that?
Yeah, most definitely. I grew up in Bombay, and growing up, we went, and I've always been a foodie, so wanted to eat at all the restaurants that opened up every day. But obviously, for different reasons, that's not a good idea. But there are a bunch, and I'm seeing this trend even more, that there are restaurants have even become about brands. So for example, how in the West, if you look at in the US, or if you know other parts of the West, a hotel doesn't have to have its own restaurant. They work with the topmost restaurants to bring in brands into the hotel. So for example, Tao, would be in a hotel in Vegas, or any good hotel in Vegas has really good restaurants which aren't owned by or run by the hotel. This trend is now coming to India as well. It started off in a small way with the Taj getting Morimoto to do wasabi, or with Intercontinental getting Kitty Chai to do ko. But now you have the Leela in Chanakyapuri, for example, which has Megu and Lasuk in it, which are well-known, renowned international brands in a hotel. And that kind of food you don't get at home. Even if you try to order for delivery, there's no restaurant, or there's no local mom and pop shop that can match up to that kind of food. So yeah, definitely.
So if I understood it correctly, would it be like, okay, so I was at Megu the other night and I would love to get this at home. Is that how this whole thing built up in your mind?
So that definitely was an idea, getting good food at home. Though then I realized that it's not practical to deliver this kind of food, because most of the food for the 5-star restaurants or the high-end restaurants doesn't last well for delivery. That's the reason that they don't deliver. And we don't provide that food at home either. Because what's the point of getting food that doesn't taste good or that doesn't taste fresh when it comes home? There are certain products that are suitable for delivery, that last well in delivery, and that is why I thought that, why not bring those to people at home, which are still good products, they're still good food. You choose whatever you want. So if you choose to eat, for example, a Domino's or a Pizza Hut at home, you can do that as well through Delivery
Absolutely.
Chef. Or if you choose to eat Indigo Delhi food at home, you can eat that as well.
Madhulika, you've been a food writer and a food critic. Is there a reverse scenario, if I have to be the devil's advocate? Is there a reverse scenario that we know that this is fantastic, it's all beautiful? Is there a reverse scenario of you can think of a hotel which is brilliant, but the F&B outlet didn't match up? Feel free to take a name or feel free to avoid, whichever way. And would you feel that that's a scenario that is possible or it has happened in the years that you've been seeing the progression of Indian F&B industry?
No, it's not. I can't take names because it just doesn't come in my head. Most of the places we know about generally has great food, or F&B has created that place mostly. Yeah, a few places, few big restaurants have not maintained the consistency, and that is all. That's the only few examples which I can give where F&B is not playing the hotel is a bigger bet. But at the base, I think how I have studied diners, and what I know is if the food is good, the service is good, you'll go back to stay in it. So everything boils down to food. Why? Because that's where you see the real service. And in India, only a F&B can, make or break that. If today somebody prefers ginger to anything else, it's because the service is very, very attentive. It's self-service, but it's very, very attentive. Uh, Other places, we really don't look at how our room gets cleaned, do we? I mean, do you go to the room and say, oh wow, it's a clean room, let's come and stay here? We'll go and eat outside because there's an olive there. No, really not. Most of the travelers go where the breakfast, where the service is good, and the only service in a hotel or in a alone restaurants which still work is the service. A perfect example of it is our Bade Mian. The food is crap, and it has gone down to dogs over a period of time. But everybody goes there because 3 seconds into your car parking, there's an attendant waiting to tell you exactly what is available, what is hot, what is chili, what you should not try, which meat is good, which meat is not good, where the dog has pooped, so you can't even park your car. So, and let me tell you, any chef which comes to Bombay, and if you ask him, did you have street food? You'll be surprised. 90% of them say they didn't have vada pav or any of that, which is our fantasy meal and a comfort meal. Everybody has gone to Bade Mian. So there's no way F&B comes down in the game. F&B has to stay up. That's why probably now I think hotels have started giving, if I'm not wrong, please correct me, isn't F&B getting more percentage of the expenditure cost right now?
I think, yeah, nowadays, even internationally, not just in India, but it can be 40%, 60% even on occasion. But Savi, when you'd mentioned about hotels, so maybe with an example not doing things properly, I know last year the Intercontinental in Bahrain, which has 5 restaurants, was doing terribly. All 5 restaurants. They were looking to magically turn around all 5 properties, either upgrade them or come up with entirely new concepts. And that's when I realized that even international hotel brands, and internationally, not just locally, most of the time have no clue of what it takes to set up a successful restaurant. They don't have a perspective of what kind of effort a single restaurant brand takes, let alone create 5, which they expect to do within a period of 1 year, and all of which will be super hits. They don't recognize the time and the depth of research and effort that goes into creating a single restaurant brand. Subsequently, scaling it up is another thing, and there again, there are pitfalls in each location of scaling it up. So I think the more hotels recognize that it may take as much effort to create a restaurant brand which occupies maybe 1/20th of their square footage. It may take that much effort to create that restaurant brand as it will their entire hotel. But the willingness to do that is not there because it's sheer economics. But what they don't realize is that investment in time in the long run will return the money that they are now unwilling to invest in.
Return doubly the amount.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, because excellent example is Sofitel. Why it is doing better than Trident, which is a homegrown brand today, is because of the restaurants. It has the first Bombay's only vegetarian whiskey bar and restaurant called Tuskers. So that's where it is winning hands up, and it's a foreign brand. Nobody has ventured into the room, but the hotel makes maximum of its earnings just by running 2 different restaurants, which is Pondicherry Cafe and Tuskers. So I think, I mean, India mein jo dikhta hai wo bikta hai. Only F&B is seen, nothing else is seen. So if your F&B is good, make sure a diner or a guest will think that you are a superb place to come back to, even if the food goes bad once a while.
Sure.
Fantastic, insight. What Ravi said, I absolutely, think this is the way to go. It's also about the skill that F&B is highly specialized, not that everybody knows. Even if it's an international brand, it's not necessarily that you really know. Is that how it is, right, Ravi? Because we are F&B guys, so
Absolutely.
we take pride in this, but I guess this is the norm almost now. So it is a highly specialized field, and you need experts to do it. It's not just an international brand or big money that can tell you how to run it. That's one. And obviously interesting perspective by Madhulika. So Vikram, what would you feel? Would you like to add on this there?
No, I was, I was so engrossed in it. In fact, I want to make a point. It's obvious that F&B does attract the people. If you see strategically in every mall, they always put the food and the entertainment on the last floor. There's a strategic reason for that. So people come for the food, or even if you're done with your shopping, you eventually need to go up. You might see something else and buy something more. So retail is important, but not so important as the food, and that's why they keep it always up. So food definitely is the attracting factor. As Madhulika also said, it brings the footfalls in. Today it's all about getting the footfalls. If you have people in your shop, place, retail, whatever it is, people will buy. And having good brands definitely helps. National, international, as she said, different concepts. Understanding what the market you're in needs and giving that is going to make you a success.
Because I have this one quick question that I want to hold on to that thought. That, you're feeding the mass India and doing it beautifully over many years. Would you feel that any of these brands in a budget hotel, because budget hotels are really the way that India is moving today, would you ever want to put your product in any of these budget hotels where you feel there's a...
Sure. Because when the restaurant is coming into a hotel, he's not really concerned about the hotel itself. Any restaurateur taking a restaurant place in a hotel is not so concerned about the hotel. He would see, is the surrounding area having enough catchment for his brand? Because in the end, if the hotel does or doesn't do well, he's concerned with the location. So personally, yes, we would be interested at some point if there are the right opportunity and we see that the right catchment is there, then definitely hotels with outsourced restaurants is the way to go.
So fantastic. I think it's brilliant that the panel seemed to agree, because I thought there will be bigger fireworks, because I guess we all from the F&B and we love our food, and we love to grow with the hotel and outside the hotel, as we see even in malls and all of these formats. So yes, I think all of us also agree that bringing in restaurant brands into the hotel is also the way to go. So if you're not capable enough to build your own brand, we bring in a domestic brand or international brand, which will also then give you that identity. So obviously we all seem to really agree on this factor that the hallmark of the hotel may very well be the F&B, or the F&B outlet, or the restaurant, or the cafe, or whatever that it is. Some of the hotels we even known for having fantastic discotheques, Early 90s, we would remember Ghungroos, or the particular disc at Hyatt, I forget the name.
There used to be Fire and Ice earlier.
So places like that. You would even identify Leela for that other nightclub that you used to have. So you would go and that I'm going to so-and-so hotel because of that particular nightclub. So it's again a way of looking at it, that F&B that brings you. So yes, if Ravi, if you want to add something more.
Yeah, Vikram, you had what was that called? Go Bananas? Yeah? So I remember that years ago, driving in footfall tremendously. And I think that's an example of a food and beverage outlet which didn't concentrate on food. I think it was the mood that it created, and fueled by liquor, of course. But I think it had a great run, and I'm sure that I think it brought a lot of crowd, and I think a reasonably good revenue, I would imagine, in those days. But I'd like to say two things. One is, taking forward what you said, Vikram, about the hotel prioritizing something on the top floors. What happens is there's a conflict of interest, I see. So if I'm looking to position a restaurant within a hotel, my criteria would be I would not go to a first floor or onwards. I would only go to the ground floor, which becomes very hard. And the reason I would choose that for a restaurant is because it would allow more easily people outside of the hotel, non-residents of the hotel, to enter more easily with a sort of an independent entrance, if that is feasible. That would be my ideal scenario. Otherwise, I would try to avoid positioning an outside restaurant within a hotel. And therein lies a possible conflict of interest, wherein you may want to, from your hotel perspective, retain that ground floor for other things which are more suitable for you. Whereas if I want to position a restaurant there, I want to vie for that space in your hotel, which you may not be willing or able to give me.
I was referring to malls. That in malls, it's always at the top.
Sure.
Fantastic, Ravi. Thank you so much. I have time. I guess we're running out of time, which is always the case in any of these panel discussions. If there is, I have time to take one question. If anybody has a question, we can take one question.
I'll actually make that two questions. One is for Mr. Kamath, is that I don't know what Go Bananas was, what kind of format that was, but why don't we see standalone bars, going through the test of time? By bars I mean 70% liquor and 30% food. So why don't we see them, going through the, surviving through time? They come, they'll stay for 5 years, they stay hot for 5 years, and then there'll be some new brand coming in. Probably, they don't survive the test of time. Why is that?
So that was your first question.
Yeah, and the second question is for Aditi, is that, it's an interesting business model that you're doing, but I go to Indigo and, pay the amount I'm paying at Indigo to get the personalized service, to get the fine dining experience. So I'm just trying to understand what kind of a market are you targeting while in-home fine dining space?
Sorry, to answer your first question. So when you're talking about nightclubs or, I think when you're saying bars, I assume you're talking about more like nightclubs.
No, I'm talking about bars, where by bars I'm defining it as 70% alcohol, lounges, bars, etc.
Yeah, no, I don't think that it's a good idea to club all of them together because all of them are different. When you talk about a bar, you're talking about a regular joint to drink. And when you're talking about a nightclub or a lounge, it's a completely different segment. Though they all serve alcohol, of course. Even a standalone restaurant serves alcohol. So when it's a bar and when you're saying why it keeps changing every 3 years or 4 years, when it's a nightclub, is that nightclubs are all about being the happening place in town. And these have a short shelf life. So you typically charge an entry cover, try and recover your investment in 1.5 years, 2 years. And then when that becomes the old thing with that same crowd, the crowd shifts elsewhere. So that's why nightclubs try to rejuvenate themselves, renovate themselves every 1 year or 1.5 years, but it never really works because the nightclub crowd is actually the same crowd. Whereas when you're talking about bars, it's an everyday crowd who's looking at spending less amount of money to drink over a longer period of time. So typically the same people will go to the same bar regularly after office or near their house and would not spend such a high amount to drink because it's not a lifestyle product in terms like a nightclub. So I hope that answers your question on why they keep changing every 3 to 4 years. Because the nightclub is a lifestyle product that once it's old, then people say, "Abhi naya kya hai? Chalo udhar jate hain."
Also lounges, why do these keep changing? Why don't they survive the test of time?
What I'll do is, given the paucity of time, I'll let her answer,
Right.
and then I'll meet you after and we'll take this.
So I completely agree with your point that going out is also, not just about the food, it's also about the ambience, about the experience that you're getting in the store. But given that, food is a large part of it. Now, we cater to all types of audiences. So on Delivery Chef, you can order food from any restaurant of your choice. There are about 600 options. So from the Fasos to the McDonald's to the Pizza Hut to the Copper Chimney to the Tips to the Madover Donuts to even the high-end ones like Indigo Delhi and LPQ. So our aim is to give any consumer the choice that he wants. Sometimes you have foreign clients down for a business meeting. You probably don't want to give them idli and dosa from Sri Sharda, the nearest Udupi that delivers to you. You probably want to give them something that their taste is accustomed to. So for them, maybe you have a working lunch and you can't take them out. That's when you probably want to order Indigo Delhi. If you're doing an office party where you want to have, 20 of your colleagues each, maybe you order McDonald's online. Doesn't necessarily always have to be Indigo Delhi. So I hope that answers your question.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I guess we're completely out of time. But anyway, thank you all. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Aditi. Thank you, Vikram. Thank you, Madhulika. Fantastic. I hope you all enjoyed the discussion. This could go on for a while. It was a beautiful, interesting topic, and I'm sure there'll be many, many insights that is coming. Over
Thank
to
you.
you.